Raising children is challenging and rewarding at the same time. It's also expensive. A Manitoba study found that the first 18 years alone cost $156,000, and that figure doesn't even include the cost of college or university. Doing it once is hard enough, but imagine spending your senior years raising your children's children. That's exactly what Betty Cornelius is doing.
I'm Betty Cornelius. I run CANGRANDS, Canadian Grandparents Raising Grandchildren. I live in Bancroft and Lake, and I'm raising a 14-year-old grandchild. We're a support group for grandparents that are raising grandchildren. We're also a support group for grandparents that are denied access.
They're called kinship families, and in 2001, almost 57,000 Canadian grandparents were raising grandkids without the child's parents involved. 75% of these grandparents are women, and 25,000 of those grandkids are under the age of 14.
My granddaughter was born with a triple heart condition, a stomach hernia, and a collapsed lung at birth. Mom and Dad were doing drugs right in the hospital, and while they had her at home, she had 4 poisonings just from neglect. Eventually, after 3.5 years of neglect and abuse, CS was going to step in, so I took over.
Betty thought she was all alone until a chance encounter with a stranger.
I was in the grocery store one day and somebody said, "Oh, you're spending the day with your grandma, are you?" to my little one. And I said, "No, she spends every day with me. You know, I'm raising her." And the lady said, "Oh, me too." And I went, "Oh." And so we went for a coffee. And I said, you know, I thought I was the only one. So I put a small ad in the Oshawa paper. 27 people called me in 3 days crying, telling me their stories. And I went, oh my goodness.
That overwhelming need for support turned into CANGRANDS, and each year they get together at the Salvation Army camp in Sutton, Ontario.
I started the internet support group. We got a whole bunch of people join it, and from there 7 years ago we said, oh, let's go down to the Rainforest Cafe and meet. So I went downtown and met total strangers. Ron was all freaked out. You're going to meet strangers, you're taking Ashley. I said, you know, like, God has his hand in here, just trust. And it was awesome. And then at the Rainforest Cafe, somebody said, oh, well, we should go camping. And we live at the lake. So I said, well, we have a big house and we live at the lake. Come to my place. So that was there, 6 of us at the Rainforest Cafe. So I'm thinking them. They went back and put it on the internet support group. And 25 people came with 14 children to my home for 3 days. And then I did it again the second year, and we had 59 people there.
A little deafened from one ear from all the whooping.
The camp gives grandparents the chance to rest while staff watch their children. They also connect with other kinship families and attend workshops. Anna Maria is raising 2 small grandchildren. This is her first year at the conference.
There's a lot of us, and I'm realizing just how many. And the stories and the hardships, the finances, all of it. And yeah, it makes me feel a lot more connected because they've got similar problems.
The average grandmother's 58 years old, 64 years old, and you're raising a couple of special needs children. You also may be co-parenting your parent now because your parent is in 70, 80 years old. So we have those issues to worry about as well. So coming here is just a really nice break.
Financially, these grandparents are struggling. Some have already spent their life savings and worry how they'll make ends meet.
We cannot afford these children, you know. Most of us we didn't plan to have these children. Most of us are living on lines of credits or reverse mortgages. My husband and I had a retirement plan, a Freedom 55 plan. He's working till he dies now. 4 of my grandparents last year actually lost their homes, elderly grandparents, because they've mortgaged, trying to look after these children.
By keeping their grandkids out of the foster care system, kinship families save the government an estimated $10 million a year. So what do they get in return?
The government does give us $231 a month, something called the Dependent Child Allowance. However, a foster parent gets up to about $1,500 a month for the same child. So I call that discrimination for the child.
In February of 2007, the Ontario Ministry of Children and Youth introduced Bill 210, also known as the Kinship Bill. Although grandparents raising grandkids now qualify for up to $900 a month, many haven't seen a cent. Why?
If you had your grandchild before February 07, then you were just out of luck. They're not going to look at you at all. And then the grandparents that get their grandchildren after 07, They're supposed to get that money, but it's not happening. So really, Bill 210 has been extremely ineffective.
Eileen Nadon and Tammy Brockhouse are both raising their grandsons. Eileen is in her late 60s, widowed and legally blind. She's gone back to work to pay the bills. They're not getting any government support.
At one point, I was getting the temporary care allowance, which was about $220 a month.
Yeah.
However, I was awarded support payments by the courts from my grandson's parents, and however, they don't pay. There was one time where the money was coming in off and on, and once you accept the temporary care, you have to sign your support payments over to the government.
Both women are frustrated that they're not getting any help.
There's no difference between the foster care doing it and getting the extra money than me. I'm doing, you know, a better job actually, because they are family. They're not out there somewhere, you know, and strangers and not knowing where they are. I feel that it should be equal whether they live with their grandparent or not.
Despite how difficult things get, both Tammy and Eileen do not regret their decision.
You just can't imagine. It's wonderful. You hear about older men remarrying younger women and having that second family and how wonderful it is. That's the only thing I can compare it to, because women don't get that opportunity to have a second family. And for us, it's just a bundle of joy.
Tammy's grandson, Alex, loves coming to camp. I asked him how he felt about living with his Nana.
My mom and dad, they drank alcohol too much, and they weren't good people. Well, they were good people, but they weren't good parents for me, and then the police just came over and took me away. They only had me for 1 week.
And how do you feel about living with your Nana?
Well, I do like living with Nanny, and she's a really nice parent. Grandmas and grandpas don't really want to do this much, but it's hard on them, but it's just fun for their kids, and they just want to help.
It is hard, but these grandparents do it willingly. For them, it's a labor of love.
There's 1 in every 100 grandparents raising grandchildren, so no matter how small your community is, you're not alone. These children that we're raising are doing better than foster children. Our children are not ending up in jail. They're getting their education. We're sacrificing and making sure that's happening.
At the CANGRANDS conference in Campout, I'm Bridget Antwi for 100 Huntley Street.